Tonight we return to a side of Victorian London that most history books prefer to quietly skip over. Not the grand ballrooms or foggy bridges, but the harsh reality of women who worked in brothels, trying to survive in a city capable of swallowing a person whole. This is a world of cramped rooms, constant risk, and rules written by wealthy men. A place where the line between choice and having no other options was painfully thin, and where a single bad night could change everything. Before you get comfortable, take a moment to like and subscribe if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who joins us from around the world. Dim the lights, adjust your pillow, and let the world slow down around you. Let's take this night journey together. Because by the time we're done, you'll be grateful for every modern comfort you've ever taken for granted. Congratulations! You've just woken up in London, 1857, at the peak of the Victorian era. Early morning, perhaps 5 or 6, and you're not lying in a grand 4-poster bed. You're lying on a slightly lumpy horsehair mattress with a thin wool blanket pulled over you. The sheets aren't fresh. At best, they're changed once a week, and they carry the faint scent of cheap lavender water that doesn't quite mask the mustiness beneath. The room is chilly. Coal for the small fireplace is strictly rationed, especially in the morning hours. The walls are covered in faded floral wallpaper, peeling slightly at the corners, where dampness has seeped in. A persistent smell hits your nose, a mixture of coal smoke from thousands of chimneys, the nearby Thames with its distinctive aroma of mud and sewage, and something sweeter and more chemical. Perfumes and cosmetics, the working tools of this place. You're in a room at the back of a brothel in the Haymarket area of London. Not the worst establishment, far from it, but certainly not one of the high-class ones either. You share this small room with another woman. She's still asleep on the second narrow bed, her breathing deep and steady. You feel the springs of the mattress creak beneath you. You stretch your legs, feeling the tension, then the relief as you relax again. That's nice. Just a moment before the day begins. Outside, London is already awake. You hear the clip-clop of horses' hooves on cobblestones, the rattle of cartwheels, and the first calls of street vendors. "Fresh bread!" someone shouts from a few streets away, the voice echoing between the tall buildings. This is your life, Mary. That's what they call you here, though it's not the name your mother gave you. You've been at this house for nearly 2 years, which makes you something of a fixture. You've seen girls come and go. Some moved up to better establishments. Some disappeared back into the poverty they came from. Some fell ill and never recovered. You sit up slowly, letting the blanket slide to your waist. The floorboards are cold under your bare feet as you reach for the wool shawl hanging on the bedpost and wrap it around your shoulders. That's better. On the small table between the beds sit a chipped ceramic pitcher and basin. There's a thin film of ice on the surface of the water. London winters are brutal. You break it with your finger. The cold water stings your skin before you splash it on your face. The shock of it fully wakes you. Now let's talk about how you came to be here, in this room, in this life, because the story may not be what you'd expect. You weren't kidnapped or sold into this work as a child, though that happened to some girls, especially the very young ones. You weren't seduced and abandoned by some gentleman, left pregnant and destitute. though that too was a common enough story. No, your path was more ordinary, and in many ways more representative of how most women found themselves in this profession. You were a seamstress, a good one, with nimble fingers and a keen eye. But there were hundreds of women like you in London, thousands even, all competing for the same poorly paid work. The British Quarterly once noted that compared to the drudgery of a dressmaker's apprentice, factory work was mere play, and they weren't wrong. You would work 14, sometimes 16 hours a day, straining your eyes in poor light, your fingers cracked and bleeding in winter. And for what? Starvation wages that barely kept a roof over your head. You remember the turning point clearly. It was winter 3 years ago. You hadn't eaten in 2 days. The room you rented was unheated, and you could see your breath misting in the air as you worked frantically to finish a commission that might pay enough for a week's lodging. Your fingers were so numb, you kept pricking them with the needle, leaving tiny spots of blood on the fine white linen. A girl you knew, Jane, came to visit. You'd worked together once. She looked different, healthier, better fed, wearing a wool dress that, while not fashionable by upper-class standards, was clean and warm and well-made. She brought food, actual hot food, a meat pie still steaming in its wrapping, and sat with you while you devoured it, trying not to seem as desperate as you felt. "There's a place," she said finally. "A house off Haymarket. The madam is strict but fair. No trouble, no cruelty. 2 meals a day, and a decent bed. Medical checks weekly." She paused, watching your face. "You'd make in a night what you make in a week here, Mary, and you wouldn't be killing yourself with this." She gestured at the pile of sewing. "You didn't answer right away. You'd been raised properly, in a God-fearing home. But your parents were dead. Your brothers had scattered to the wind seeking work. And here you were, slowly starving to death, one stitch at a time. The house is starting to wake up around you. You hear footsteps on the stairs, heavy ones, probably Mrs. Winters, the housekeeper. There's the clatter of coal being shoveled, a fire being lit downstairs in the parlor where customers wait. The scent of coffee drifts up. Real coffee, not chicory. This house prides itself on small luxuries. Your roommate stirs, mumbling something in her sleep before turning over. Lily, that's what they call her here. She's younger than you by a few years, maybe 19 to your 24, with auburn hair that the gentleman seemed to fancy. She told you once she came from a factory in Manchester. The noise of the looms had made her partially deaf in one ear. Time to get up properly. There are routines to follow, expectations to meet. Mrs. Winters runs a tight ship, and tardiness isn't tolerated. The madam, Mrs. Cartwright, to her face, though the girls call her Carty behind her back, expects everyone downstairs and presentable by noon. The brothel operates on a precise schedule. Mornings are for cleaning, bathing, and rest. Afternoons see a few regular customers, mainly businessmen, on extended lunch breaks. Evenings and nights are the busiest times, with the house often full until the early hours. Mrs. Cartwright insists that the girls take care of themselves. "You're selling an illusion, girls," she often says. "Gentlemen don't want to see the reality of a working woman's life." Most of the men who visit don't want reality. They want fantasy, escape, something different from their respectable wives and homes. A quiet knock at the door. "Hot water, miss," comes a voice, young Betsy, the maid of all work. She's only 13, too young for the house's main business. Mrs. Cartwright took her in when she found her begging on the street, half-starved. Now she helps the housekeeper, runs errands, and sleeps in a tiny room off the kitchen. In a few years, she'll likely join the other girls, but for now, she's protected, which is more than can be said for many children on London's streets. "Come in, Betsy," you call. The door opens, and the girl enters, carrying a large jug of steaming water. Her face is freshly scrubbed, her brown hair neatly braided. "Morning, Miss Mary," she says cheerfully, pouring the hot water into your basin. "Cold one today. Mrs. Winters says there might be snow later." This is another thing that sets this house apart from some others. Regular meals, decent food. In the worst brothels, girls might go hungry if business is slow. Here Mrs. Cartwright understands that healthy girls earn more money. The normality of it all still sometimes strikes you as strange. This life, this work that society condemns as the ultimate female degradation, happens right alongside ordinary London life. The baker delivers fresh bread to the brothel, just as he does to the respectable boarding house next door. Lily finally stirs properly, sitting up with a yawn. "I dreamed about the seaside again. Have you ever been to the sea, Mary?" "Once," you say, remembering a rare family outing years ago. "Brighton, when I was small." "I'd like to go someday," Lily says, her voice wistful. "They say the air is different there. Cleaner." This is a common dream among the girls, saving enough to escape London, to start fresh somewhere else. Some manage it. Most don't. Wednesday is medical examination day. Every week the doctor visits to check the girls for signs of disease. It's one of Mrs. Cartwright's strictest rules and one of the reasons her house maintains its reputation. In many brothels, disease runs rampant with devastating consequences. Here, any girl showing symptoms is immediately removed from work and treated. Dr. Harrison is a man of about 50 with graying hair and a neat beard. Unlike many doctors who serve this industry, he doesn't treat the women with contempt or unnecessary roughness. His manner is professional, his touch clinical rather than punitive. "Ah, Mary," he says, "how have you been keeping? Any concerns to report?" "Well enough, thank you, doctor. No concerns." The examination itself is brief but thorough. You've learned to detach yourself during this part, to think about the book waiting in your room, the taste of the currant bun you'll have when it's over, the feel of sunshine on your face in the yard. "All appears to be in order," he says, finally. The examination leaves you feeling slightly hollow, not because of any pain or discomfort, there was none, but because of the reduction of your person to a collection of bodily functions to be assessed and judged. Necessary, yes, for your own protection. But still, there's an emptiness that follows. Soon the house will shift into its afternoon mode. You go up to your room and take out the blue dress with slightly more fashionable lines, cotton, with a touch of lace at the collar. Respectable enough not to alarm, attractive enough to entice. In the parlor, Mrs. Cartwright stands near the fireplace, speaking to a visitor. The man has his back to you, middle-aged by the look of his posture, dressed in a well-cut dark coat. A businessman, most likely. He introduces himself as Charles Wilson, probably not his real name. The conversation continues for a few minutes. The weather. A recent exhibition at the Crystal Palace. Nothing too personal, just enough to establish a minimal connection. The transaction itself is unremarkable. Mr. Wilson is polite, not rough, grateful for the warmth and attention. He stays for the full hour he's paid for, though the physical act takes only a small portion of that time. The rest is spent in quiet conversation. This too is part of what he's purchased, the illusion of intimacy, of being cared for. When the time is up, he dresses quietly. "Thank you," he says simply. He presses a small additional coin into your hand. "You've been very kind." In this life, that counts as a good encounter. By the time you return to the house, the afternoon is advancing toward evening. The house feels different now, charged with a subtle energy. Evening preparations are underway. You begin your own transformation. A dress of deep blue silk, slightly faded but still elegant. Fresh undergarments. A corset laced just enough to create the fashionable silhouette. Hair brushed until it shines, arranged in an elaborate style with soft curls framing your face. A little rice powder. A touch of rouge. Delicate lavender water dabbed at your wrists and behind your ears. The transformation is complete. From ordinary working woman to something more refined, more alluring. Not a lady, that fiction wouldn't be believable, but a woman of certain attractions, of particular charms. Dinner is served in the dining room. Hearty beef stew, fresh bread, rice pudding with raisins, a glass of wine, enough to create a pleasant warmth, not enough to dull the wits. Mr. Hamilton proves to be an unusually interesting customer. Tall, perhaps 38, with the well-kept look of a prosperous man and confident posture. His clothes are excellent quality, not showy, but expensive. "How did you come to be here?" he asks afterward, his tone curious but not judgmental. "I was a seamstress," you tell him calmly. "The pay wasn't enough to live on. 16 hours a day, eyes straining in bad light, fingers cracking in winter, and still barely enough for food and a roof. This pays better. The hours are shorter, the conditions more comfortable." A rational economic decision, then? Yes, though society doesn't view it rationally. The conversation continues in this unexpected direction. A genuine discussion of economics, morality, and the position of women. It's refreshing to be treated as a thinking person, rather than merely a body. 6 gentlemen from a club dinner. Slightly loosened cravats, waistcoats bearing spots of wine. Their voices louder than the usual parlor tone. The evening continues its measured progression. One customer following another. By 1 in the morning, a genuine lull settles in. "I believe that's all for tonight, Mary," says Mrs. Cartwright, her voice showing the first hints of her own fatigue. "The last gentlemen have gone. I don't expect more in this weather." Relief flows through you. Lily is already here, brushing out her long auburn hair with slow, tired strokes. The blue silk dress comes off with relief. The corset with even greater satisfaction. Your lungs expand fully for the first time in hours. "Do you ever wonder what it would be like?" Lily asks quietly. "A different life, I mean." "Sometimes," you admit. "But then I remember what it was actually like. The hunger, the cold, the constant fear of ending up in the workhouse. At least here we eat well. We're warm. I suppose that's it, isn't it? Not good versus bad. Just different kinds of difficult, different prices to pay." "Yes, different prices." You extinguish the lamp and slip beneath the covers. The sheets are cool at first, gradually warming with your body's heat. Outside, the storm has intensified. Rain drums steadily against the window. But inside is warmth. shelter. "Good night, Mary," comes Lily's voice, softly through the darkness. "Good night, Lily," you murmur in response. Your life in this Victorian brothel is just one tiny thread in the vast tapestry of women's experiences throughout history. Difficult, yes, dangerous in its way, but also a place of certain freedoms unavailable elsewhere. You're not the first to navigate these waters, not the last. This thought brings a strange comfort as you sink deeper toward sleep. Sleep now. Let yourself drift down into that perfect relaxation. The day is done. The work is finished. Nothing more is required of you now, only to rest, to renew. Sleep. Sleep well.